Welcome everyone to our session 3, applying system level change principles to the coaching process. We are really glad that you are here and taking your very precious time to join us this morning. Okay, we're going to get started with the land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that Dyslexia Canada and IDA Ontario serve citizens on the traditional territories of all of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis across Canada. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to our country. This acknowledgement reminds us of our responsibilities to our relationships and the ancestral lands on which we learn, share, and live. So my name is Sharon Carosi, and I'm joined with Jordan Sloan this morning, as always. So we're going to do a dive into chapter 4. Before we do that, we just want to make sure that we acknowledge that you are all coming from different places and spaces, and that everyone is learning at a different pace, and we're all in a different, maybe, part of your journey. Some of you are just beginning, and some of you are more experienced with some of the content. Being a coach, some of you are brand new coaches, some of you are master coaches. So we just we want everyone to acknowledge that there's no dumb questions here. This is a chance for you guys to connect with others in similar roles. So ways to participate in this coaching session that we're really trying to connect coaches across the province. So the first one is the live sessions that we're doing every second Monday at 11:30. We're trying to do that during your lunch hour, and hopefully we appreciate that a lot of you have been able to do that. So thank you for doing that. We also do record these. So just the parts, not when you're in your breakout sessions, but just when it's the general session, we record these. So if you have missed it and you want to join in later and you just want to listen to it, those are available to you. And we're just really glad you're here. Also, most of you probably know this already, but there are downloads for the book that we're doing, the book study that we're working on, the coaching for systems and teacher change, and everything, all the appendices at the back of the book can be downloaded. So all coaches, so this is chapter 4 we're focusing on today. This book states that chapter 4 is one that may be tempting to skip, assuming that systems and system level change principles may not apply to working with teachers or teams. And I honestly really felt like, oh, maybe we should just skip this one. And then when I read it, it was so amazing and has such an impact on what we do every day in the classroom. So it's a really important chapter. We need to remember that all coaches work within systems. Moreover, systems shape student outcomes for better or worse. Coach sessions that do not consider the overarching system in which recipients work are most likely to miss the mark. So we really need to know what system we are working with and how we can make changes from there. The challenge for coaches in helping teams and teachers enhance the system. So questions you may have that we're going to explore for this chapter are: how does a coach help teachers and teams pinpoint what is and is not working in the system? And if I could redo some of my coaching days, I would be really focusing on this one, the part that we're helping teachers and teams pinpoint. That is so critical and crucial. And one of the mistakes I made along the way, I felt like I was coming in with new ideas and fresh perspectives, and I wasn't really listening to what it was that they were needing. And the second thing that we're going to look at is, once issues have been pinpointed, how does a coach help teachers and teams navigate the change process? And then what challenges do teachers and teams face when they realize that system improvements are necessary? So today we're going to be going into breakout rooms at different points throughout the time that we have together. And we are going to need the language curriculum documents as well. We want you to always have that in the back of your mind, that we're reflecting on the changes that are happening that we have no control over. These are mandated from the ministry because they're our curriculum. But just notice those that if you can think about how the language curriculum is being implemented in your system. We want to keep that in the forefront for sure. Right now, I'm just going to put into I guess Jordan's already done that. Thanks, Jordan. And the language curriculum's there. And as we said before, if you are when we go into the groups, If you would please, for those of you that have just joined, if you could put an F if you want to discuss the French curriculum, P grades K to 3, J 4 to 6, and I for 7 to 8. So if you could just make sure you're all renamed right now, and we're good to get started. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Jordan.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. So the links to the language curriculum are in the chat, so you can go ahead and link on those when you need them. We're going to use those through the breakout rooms. And if you could take that moment to rename yourself, to add that letter, then Una will know where to send you when it is time to go into those breakout rooms. So the big picture, what is a system and why does it matter? And again, in the book, they say it is tempting to skip this chapter because as a teacher coach, we don't necessarily think that we work within a system, but even our classrooms are systems. In education, a system could be a classroom, it could be a school, it could span out to take a larger view, it could be all the schools in a district. So a system is really one or more units that are linked together in some way, sharing a common goal or a purpose. Every education system is made up of a constellation of parts called components. So we're going to take a look at those components now, and they're going to light up one at a time. So the education system is a class, a program, a school, or a district. And the first one we have at the top is human resources, and that's the people involved in the system. So it's their behaviors, their views, their beliefs, for example, teacher self-efficacy or a leadership team. If we work our way around the side, we can see fiscal resources, so funding sources, and how resources are allocated in the system. Then we keep following that along. Policies and regulations, the formal rules, laws, and guidelines of the system. So things like staffing and student policy. If we keep going, we see processes and procedures. That's the day-to-day operating approaches of the system. So like how decisions are made, how barriers are removed, who's involved, processes for gaining access to professional learning opportunities. And then the last one is the material resources, and that's the physical resources of the system. So the curricular and assessment materials, the school building, the classroom space. So why do systems matter in coaching? If the system is not reaching the goal, we must look at the different system components to tease out why the goal is or is not reached. And we're going to look at 3 principles. The book goes through 3 principles. The first one is understanding the system to understand outcomes. So take a clear look at what is happening in the system to understand why desired outcomes are or are not achieved. As coaches, our job here is to help teachers and teams see their classroom, their school, their program, their district, wherever you work. And we help the teachers and the teams assess which components support improved student outcomes and which get in the way. So where do we start? We are going to look at Appendix H, which comes in the book. And we're going to do that to gather a bigger picture view of each system component and whether that component is a strength or a weakness. And to do that, what we're going to do is send you into breakout rooms. We do have the appendix there as a link. It's on page 134 of your book as well, and we will put it up in the chat. And in a real coaching session, what you would do is you would introduce this tool and you would explain how it's used. And then you would have each team member complete the tool independently and share their completed form. And then you could facilitate a discussion to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to share their insights. The team works through the tool to produce initial thoughts about what they might do to improve the challenges in the system. And that kind of gives us a clearer understanding of which system components are getting in the way of reaching the goal. For today's breakout room, you're going to have about 10 minutes and you're going to discuss the components of the tool and how you see the new language curriculum impacting the components outlined. So this is why we wanted you to pick French primary, junior, or intermediate to kind of guide that discussion as you're going through each of those 5 components. You're looking at those pieces. It's going to give you the option to kind of talk through what you see as potential challenges and where you see that these pieces might be helpful. Principle 2, if we move on. So principle 1 really is about understanding what needs to change in the system. Principle 2 then focuses on how systems are changed, and they use the plan, do, study, act cycle. It's central to the work of the systems coach. And if you look at, if you do have the book Appendix I on page 135, there's a really good worksheet to ponder all of the questions in this cycle. So the cycle is developing a plan with specific strategies to address the challenge areas, enacting the plan, examining what happens as a result of that plan, and then refining the strategies to address the challenge areas based on their impact. And then we just keep repeating that cycle. So in terms of our link to the language curriculum, the Plan, Do, Study, Act. So reorienting yourself to the challenge in the system and the student improvement goals you're working with. So really thinking about what is the goal, what components of the system are you trying to improve, and why is improving the system component likely to improve student outcomes? So if you do have anything to share, we're not going to go into a breakout room for this one, but if you do want to share anything in the chat, you can go ahead and do that. Just answering those questions. What is the goal? What components of the system are you trying to improve? And why is improving the system component likely to improve student outcomes? And we did talk in our group quite a lot about how big of a change this curriculum is, how many new pieces, especially that strand B, is new to a lot of our teachers, and how we can go about supporting their learning. So that was one of the things we did see as a challenge. I don't know if anyone's writing anything, or we can go to the next slide. I'll just keep going because we do want to give you time in that last breakout room. So principle 3, the final one, is the systems level change is an adaptive challenge. And it shows that although there is a non-technical aspect to systems level change, it's not just about completing a Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. It's also about helping teachers and teams work through those critical barriers to change. So thinking about the stress, the frustration, the resistance that we could see as we work through change. When we ask why change is so difficult, it's a tricky process. And it typically has more than one possible solution, which creates a bit of an atmosphere of ambiguity that requires flexible thinking, a shift in beliefs and values, and new ways of working. Maintaining status quo can be much more appealing. We can all think of people that don't love change. However, as well-intentioned as they are, we're creating stress, anxiety, cognitive dissonance, and resistance among teachers and teams, but we can also have positive reactions, right? There's excitement, there's anticipation, there's clarity, there's receptiveness, there's willingness. As a coach, don't push back against these reactions. Your goal is to support teachers and teams. So how to work with these reactions? A big one is building in choice about what will change and providing voice or input about the change. And if you think about, it comes to mind when I think about kindergartners right off the bat, right? Or even my own kids. Like, the question is not, do you want to have a bath? The question is, do you want to have a bath now or in 10 minutes? Or do you want to have a bath with bubbles or with no bubbles, right? Thinking about what choice we can build in and giving the people that we're working with, the teachers that we're working with, a voice. We're also going to talk next week about alliance strategies. That's going to be a big topic of our session, not next week, in 2 weeks. And then we'll really dig into what we can do to support teachers in that way. So we're going to go into one more breakout room. It's going to be our last one for today. And I want you to think before you go into that breakout room about a situation when you had to change practice. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about the language curriculum, but it would be great if it did fit in with that discussion. And we're going to send a slide in to the breakout room so you have some guiding questions here. So what did you have to do? How did you react? Did you embrace the change or find yourself struggling, and why? Think about the degree to which you were granted voice and choice. What happened that resulted in you knowing that you did or did not have a voice and choice? How did you feel? What did you do? And if you could experience the situation again, what would you do differently? And that comes from Appendix J, which is on page 136 of your book. And it's just the reflection question for Principle 3. So what do systems level principles mean to me?
Oh, the concept of a system may not at first seem central to the work of a coach, particularly a coach working with teachers to improve their practice and student outcomes. But we know there's so many implications. So we know that could not be further from the truth. The overall health of the system is contingent on what happens with policies, regulations, processes, procedures, and resources. And so they have a huge impact on how we function in the system, whether it's a small system in classrooms or board-wide, district-wide. So next time we'll take a closer look at alliance strategies. And so that's on December 11th, and laying the foundations for effective coaching, one of the 4 key principles of being an effective coach. And I'm away next time, but Jordan will be available, which is amazing. So I won't see you back until January 22nd. So we just want to thank you for the time of joining us today, and thank you so much. And we hope that we will see you next time. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Jordan. We are available. Also, ONlit is very available. They have a team that will respond to any of your questions. That they're all currently working as teachers with the different boards around the province. And so that's set up in place for the ONlit. And anyone that wants to stay, we're here till 12:30. And if you have any questions or want to stay and chit chat with other coaches, feel free to stay on. Otherwise, the rest of you have an amazing week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.